Hey there, in this video, I want to share with you some of my tips for using custom code in Webflow. Now I know Webflow is technically a quote-unquote no-code tool, but I like using custom code whenever possible in my projects. It makes it easier for some of the interactions, and I'm not gonna lie, makes me feel like more of a traditional old-school web developer. So with that being said, I want to share with you 4 of my favorite tips in no particular order, and hopefully you could find them useful and start to implement them in your workflow. The first tip I'm going to share with you actually involves moving away from Webflow. So for this first tip, I'm going to open up Visual Studio Code. And the reason I'm going to do that is because I like using a dedicated code editor when I write my custom code in Webflow. Now there's nothing wrong with typing in a snippet here or there directly in Webflow. But if you're doing something yourself, starting from scratch, it makes it a whole lot easier using something like Visual Studio Code because they have extensions that have predictive text. So if you're someone who's still fairly new to writing JavaScript, it makes it a whole lot easier to start implementing some of the concepts in your projects when you don't have to memorize all of them and have them in your head knowing what you're going to do. So I have some code already written out. And if you see, if I go to my event listener, if I type in C, it will assume I want to add a click event. Now if I go back, if I type in an M, it will assume I want a mouse over. If I continue on and start typing mouse enter, it will assume that's what I want to do. So if you're someone who's still fairly new to writing vanilla JavaScript, it makes it a whole lot easier to start working with some of the concepts. You don't have to have everything memorized. The second tip is, when possible, write your CSS in an embed element, whether that be your global styles or a embed element in that specific section where the element is. Reason being is if you were to write it in your page settings, you're going to have to publish the page each time to see what the changes look like. Now I know there are some advanced users that have Webflow connected to a code editor, but I'm trying to talk to the 90% of Webflow developers that are working in an interface like this. If you look here in my testimonials, I have your simple 3 card testimonials. And let's say I don't want to have the punctuation like this. I want to add a hanging punctuation so all of my paragraphs are aligned and I don't have this weird indent in the beginning. What I could do is I could first edit and remove the front quotation. So now that I have my first quotation all removed, what I can do is I can drop in an embed element. I'm going to use the shortcut Control E, enter embed, and I can paste in this custom CSS. And what this is going to do, it's going to target my testimonial quote, and it's going to add in the quotation mark before the paragraph. So it's going to give me the hanging punctuation look that I'm going for. So I'm going to save and close. And if you notice, now I have the punctuation right before the paragraph. So now all of it is still aligned. I didn't have to publish. The changes are reflected right in Designer. The third tip is, when possible, try to use data attributes for your custom code. Now there's nothing wrong with using class names or IDs, but it's really easy to inadvertently change a class name or remove an ID, not knowing it's connected to a custom code later on. If you use data attributes, it gives you a little bit extra layer of protection because those data attributes are still on that element. Now it's not 100% flawless. If someone was to just delete the element, then it's gone as well. But at least it gives you just a little bit extra security for your custom code. So in this example right here, I have 4 cards set up, each with the class name of white card. And if we go to the element settings, you'll notice I have 3 custom data attributes set up. And if you want to know more about how I set this up, I did a video on this and I'll link it below in the description. But basically what this is I have a data dash type that I'm using as my way of selecting the element in the code. And then I have a data dash hover dash BG dash color, and that's the value I want the card background color to turn into when I hover in. And then to make it easy to revert to the initial color, I have a third data attribute set up called data-bg-color. And that's basically just an easy way of putting my initial color in there. So when the mouse moves out of the element, it goes back to that color. So if I go to my published site, you notice that when I hover these cards, they turn blue on hover. And if we were to look at the custom code of those cards, you'll notice that I'm selecting it with the data-type, and I'm saying on mouse enter, turn the color of data-hover-bg color, whichever the value is, and then on mouse leave, revert back to the initial color using that data-bg color. And finally, the fourth tip is to include comments in your custom code snippets. Now, to show you an example of this, I'm going to move back into Visual Studio Code, only because the gray text in Webflow for comments is a little hard to see. So I want to make sure you can see it on video. So to start off, here's an example of writing a comment in an HTML element. And basically what you do is you start off with using the less than sign, exclamation point, dash dash, and to close it, you go dash dash greater than sign. Now you'll notice that the exclamation point is only at the beginning of the comment. So only you have to do the exclamation point at the beginning, not to close it. And then in between, right here, is where you can write your comments. Now this you don't use this as much in Webflow since the elements, you're doing it visually. So now I'm going to move over to CSS. So in this example, I have some CSS code, and if I wanted to add a comment to this, all I would need to do is go / asterisk, type in a comment. So I'll say, this is my comment, space, and I'll go reverse it. So I'll go asterisk, / and that's my comment. So now if I was to go back to my JavaScript example from earlier in the video, you'll notice I already have 2 comments written in this document. You've probably seen this before. It's a / and then the comment. Now this is primarily used for single line comments. If you had a comment that was multi-line, you could actually use the same syntax as we used in the CSS. So I could take this out. I can go / asterisk, enter, this is another comment, enter once again, go asterisk, / and there's my comment. And I can also bring this up to the previous line and it would still work. So there you go. There are 4 tips I like to use when writing custom code in Webflow. Hope this helps. Thank you for watching. Have a great day.